The Heart of Buddhism. Translated from the original Sanskrit by Thomas Cleary. I. Ravana's request for instruction. Thus have I heard, at one time the Blessed One sojourned at the stronghold of Lanka atop the Malaya mountains in the ocean, adorned with flowers of various kinds of jewels, together with a large group of mendicants, and a large number of bodhisattvas led by Mahamadi, bodhisattvas who had assembled from various fields of enlightenment, who made playthings of numerous absorptions, masteries, powers, and superknowledges, who were consecrated by direct anointment by all Buddhas, conversant with the meaning of perception of objects as what is seen by one's own mind, holders of guidance and discipline indicated for the minds and habits of various beings, who had gotten the point of the five phenomena, the natures, the consciousnesses, and twofold selflessness.
At that time, furthermore, the Blessed One had come from 7 days at the palace of the king of sea dragons. With tens of millions of Indras, Brahmas, and dragon maidens going forth to meet him, he beheld Lanka in Malaya and smiled. Earlier realized ones too, worthies who arrived at reality, truly and completely enlightened, taught the principle of innate first-hand ultimate knowledge made accessible to wise logicians, listeners, and solitary illuminates, which I too intend to teach here, in recognition of Ravana, overlord of the Rakshasas, revealing it in the same way.
Ravana, overlord of Rakshasas, heard through the empowerment of Buddha. The Blessed One, indeed, having emerged from the palace of the king of the city of the sea, surrounded and attended by tens of millions of Indras, Brahmas, and dragon maidens, looking over the waves of the ocean, stood there and inspired those assembled, after having observed their thoughts, which were impelled into the range of waves of active consciousness on the water of the receptacle consciousness. Let me go invite the Blessed One into Lanka. That will redound to my benefit, advantage, and happiness in the long night, as well as those of deities and humans.
Then Ravana, overlord of Rakshasas, mounted a flowery chariot with his attendants and went to where the Blessed One was. When they arrived, he and his attendants dismounted from the chariot, circled the Blessed One 3 times to the right, and sang verses gracefully accompanied by music, a lute studded with coral and cat's eye, slung at the side by means of priceless perfumed pale cloth and played with a sapphire plectrum, producing a melody ranging through all the notes of the scale.
The formula of the guiding principle of the nature of mind, selflessness, beyond views, undefiled, indicating the attainment to be known firsthand, teach the formula of the principle, O guide, here and now. The blissful one is the embodiment of amassed pure qualities, teaching by having created constructions while wrapped in the reality of attainment that has to be known firsthand. Now is the time to go to Lanka, O sage. Previous victors lived in this Lanka, with their successors of many forms. Teach the supreme principle here, O protector, the spirits of many forms will listen.
Then Ravana, overlord of Lanka, following up in a meter of 4 by 12 syllables, also sang in verse. Having crossed the ocean in 7 nights, the abode of sea monsters, the palace of the Lord of the Ocean, the Blessed One stands on the shore. As the Buddha stands there, Ravana, together with Apsaras, Yakshas, and various savants such as Shuka and Sarana, goes magically to where the guide stands. Dismounting from their flowery vehicle, after bowing and making offerings to the realized one, he is directed by the Lord of Victors to declare his name.
I here am Ravana, 10-headed Lord of Rakshasas, favor me, and the inhabitants of Lanka here. The realm of first-hand attainment has also been elucidated by perfectly enlightened ones of the past in the city on the jewel-studded summit. Let the Blessed One too, there on the same bejeweled peak, teach the pure truth, surrounded by offspring of the victor. Now we too, and the inhabitants of Lanka, wish to hear. The domain of first-hand attainment is free of doctrine and dogma. The Lankavatara Sutra, indeed, has been praised by past Buddhas. I remember this sutra being uttered by past Buddhas in the presence of offspring of the victors. Let the Blessed One also enunciate it.
There will also be Buddhas and heirs of Buddhas in the future, guides who will teach this same sacred principle on the jeweled peak, out of compassion for the Yakshas. The wonderful city of Lanka is pleasant, adorned with multitudes of various jewels, cooling, pleasant, making a network of jewels. There are here, Blessed One, Yakshas free from the morbid element of passion who contemplate the scope of first-hand attainment, who have provided for previous Buddhas, believe in the guidance of the great vehicle, and discipline each other.
The Yiksha girls and boys want to understand the great vehicle. Let the Blessed One, the teacher, come to Mount Malaya in Lanka. The Rakshasas living in the city, headed by Kumbhakarna, want to hear of first-hand attainment, the great vehicle, their ultimate resort. Having acknowledged the authority of Buddhas, they will do so now too. For the sake of compassion for me, go to Lanka with your successors. Accept, great sage, my home, and parties of nymphs, and assorted necklaces of pearls, and the pleasant sorrowless grove. I am a servant of the Buddhas and their successors, there is nothing I wouldn't give. Have compassion for me, O great sage.
Having heard this statement of his, the Lord of the three realms of being said, by past guides too, O Lord of Yakshas, has first-hand truth been enunciated on the jeweled mountain, and you too are treated thus with compassion, those of the future too will speak on the jewel-adorned mountain. For this is the sanctuary of yogis who experience evident truth. You deserve the compassion of the blissful ones, O Lord of Yakshas, and mine as well.
Silently, calmly, the Blessed One mounted the flowery vehicle presented by Ravana. Thereupon Ravana, and the other fearless successors of the victor, went to the city, fated by nymphs with amusing dances. Having gone there to the pleasant city, again he received respect, honored by Ravana, and families of Yakshas, including the Yaksha women, and was honored with a net of jewels by Yaksha boys and girls. Ravana also placed pearl necklaces adorned with jewels on the necks of the Buddha, the victorious one, and the successors of the victorious one. Having accepted the offering, the Blessed One and his wise successors contemplated the truth, the domain of first-hand attainment.
Ravana and the Yaksha families, having honored the best of speakers, paid respects to Muhammad and entreated him repeatedly. You are the one who asks all Buddhas about the realm of first-hand attainment. I am here listening, and the Yakshas and the successors of the victorious one too, I entreat you, as do the Yakshas, and the wise successors of the victorious one. You are the great speaker among speakers, motivator of the effort of yogis. I entreat you with devotion, inquire about the teaching, fearless one, free of the fallacies of dogmatists, beyond solitary victors and listeners, individual purity of nature is what fosters the supreme stage of the enlightened.
Then the Blessed One projected other wonderful jeweled mountains, adorned with tens of millions of jewels, showing himself individually on each mountain peak, with Ravana the Yaksha standing there on each one too. At this, all those assemblies were seen in each place, all realms right there, and the leaders therein. The like of Lanka was projected by the victorious one, the Lord of Rakshasas, and the residents of Lanka there, and others too, and the sorrowless grove that was there, beautiful for its woods. On each mountain the protector, urged by Muhammad, taught the Yaksha the teaching pointing to first-hand attainment. He taught the whole Sutra, 100,000 lines, on the mountain.
Then the teacher and his successors there disappeared, and Ravana the Yaksha saw himself at home. He thought, what is this? Who said this? By whom was it heard? What was seen, and by whom was it seen? Where is the blessed city? Where are those realms, those blessed Buddhas, brilliant as jewels? Was this a dream, or an illusion, a city conjured by sirens? A visual distortion, or a mirage? A dream, a fantasy? Or was it the smoke of a fire, that I have seen here? Or is this the nature of things in the domain of thought, not understood by the ignorant, who are deluded by pervasive imagination?
There is no seer and no seen, nothing said, and no speaker, except this imagination, and acting out of the appearance of the qualities of Buddha. Those who see as seen do not see the guide. If one has the notion of inertia, one does not see Buddha either. When one sees in a state without excitement, Buddha is perfectly enlightened.
Awakening with his assumption reversed to realization, it was only objects of his own mind, the overlord of Lanka, determined to act without false imagination, impelled by previous roots of good, his intellect having consumed all sciences, perceiving accurately, not needing another's guidance, skilled at consideration with his own intelligence, with vision beyond thought and opinion, not needing guidance from others, practitioner of great discipline, able to assume very many forms, having attained skill in expedient means, skilled in understanding the specific characteristics of the ascending continuum of all the stages of enlightenment, enjoying investigation of the nature of thought, intellect, and consciousness,
with vision cutting through the three continuities of the world, people, and actions, with an intellect beyond all dogmas of creation, having found within himself the stage of the enlightened that is the matrix of realization of verity, intelligence permanently awakened, heard from the sky a voice perceptible within himself.
Congratulations, overlord of Lanka, good for you. This is how a yogi is to learn as you learn. This is how those who have reached reality are to be seen, and the teachings too, as seen by you. Being otherwise viewed assumes annihilation. You should contemplate all things detached from thought, intellect, and cognitive consciousness, introspectively, not by immersion in the notion of external phenomena. And you should not become absorbed in views fallen within the range of the stated aims of listeners, solitary illuminates, and dogmatists. You should not become enamored of legends and myths, nor entertain the idea of inherent nature, not become intoxicated by rulership as king, as one who meditates the 6 meditations and beyond. This, overlord of Lanka, is the clear understanding of yogis who refute the arguments of others, demolishing unsound opinions, skilled in excluding the idea of soul, skilled in subtly reversing perception, successors of the victorious one, who have gone on the great journey. You should make effort to attain entry into the stage realized spontaneously first-hand by those who arrive at reality.
As you are doing so, overlord of Lanka, this path you have taken will become more and more purifying, by attainment of skill in concentration. It is not within the range of the bliss accessible to listeners, solitary illuminates, or dogmatists, as imagined by practitioners of yoga as taught by the ignorant, who are absorbed in self-serving definition of what is perceived, followers of elements, qualities, and substances, who are totally immersed in attachment to views based on ignorant assumptions, who dissociate emptiness and occurrence, who are immersed in imagination, whose interest is limited to description of what can be described.
This leads to all forms of success, Lord of Lanka. This mastery of the great vehicle awakens one's own first-hand attainment. It also makes for attainment of a better state of being as a result. This engagement of the great vehicle, O Lord of Lanka, disperses the various waves of consciousness like masses of clouds, not falling into the assumptions used by dogmatists. For the practice of dogmatists, O Lord of Lanka, proceeds from the self-attachment of dogmatists, from the tenacious opinion of dogmatists performing unsound practices on the assumption that consciousness and nature are two things. Very well, Lord of Lanka, you should reflect on the meaning of this. As you perceived from the vision of the realized one, this is indeed the vision of the realized.
Now it occurred to Ravana, may I again meet the realized one, master of all methods, who refuses the disciplines of dogmatists, who manifests the range of first-hand attainment, who is detached form creations and creation, whose attainment of understanding is the attainment realized by yogis who master concentration methods when they practice. It is from his realization that the yogi's word yoga is adapted to imply attainment. So I want to see that.